I used to be so ashamed of it, and then sometime in my life, I flipped over to that. I don't give a fuck about anybody. So then I was like, you know what? I fucking love wrestling. Fight me about it.
Literally, like the whole theme of our podcast.
What?
Knock, knock. Who's there? It's me with content. Are you buying?
Content.
And this is how we do warm-ups before.
Cait, do you want to do the intro?
I think you had an intro to do.
I mean, I feel like it's not as
You have
I feel like it's
The comedy
it's not
train
as
will
good
barrel
as
through
anything that's
everything.
going on here. All right, let's fucking go.
I love it.
Welcome to Ridiculous Passions. I'm Cait Rose. I'm here with my co-host Joe Medforce, and today we're joined by two ridiculously funny guys, the creators of co-op comedy, Chris, also known as Robodessert, and Robert, also known as Robert Highwind. Guys, thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about co-op comedy.
I like that you said creators as if we like thought long and hard about what we were doing, and we're like, man, we got to make this. Like it wasn't just like, hey, we should do this. All right.
Yeah. That's really what it was. Yeah. That's a perfect synopsis of co-op comedy. We were like, hey, we like doing stuff together. Let's do stuff together.
Cool.
And then we did stuff together.
Put the content on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, like cavemen.
I mean, that makes sense to me. Yeah.
Two great funnies goof together, you know?
It's true.
Yeah.
It's what is that, like Newton's fourth law, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's definitely a law.
Apple fell on his tree. Some two guys made fun of him. He's like, that's the fourth law. I don't know why he speaks like this.
He was from Brooklyn, famously.
Yeah.
Definitively.
MC Newton from the boroughs of Brooklyn. But yeah, co-op comedy is just me and Robo doing this while playing video games.
Yeah, I'm going to come up on his ass. I kind of regret saying what I just
Nope,
said.
you're coming on his ass. Welcome to co-op comedy.
Mostly video games.
Okay.
Venturing off into other forms of comedic takes on other things.
Occasionally.
I believe you've put your spin so far on the reaction genre. You're reacting to things together.
Famously making people mad.
Yeah, very polar.
Oh,
polarizing
really?
content when you react and not only go, ooh,
Yeah.
I like this, and ooh, and you just sit there and roast the trailer as you're watching it. People are like, if you're gonna talk over the trailer, just don't talk over the trailer. It's like, sir, go watch the trailer.
I had that. I think it was.
Come to co-op comedy and watch us roast something.
Yeah.
I had that on a Nintendo Direct React like video I put up on YouTube, and it was just like, you know, if you're gonna just talk over, it's like that's the point of it. It's a commentary. I would if I just put up the press conference, it would get taken down because it's illegal. You're meant to transform it. Like, what's wrong with you people?
I have a very funny sketch idea now where we're gonna be like this, like the title will be like, this is what people love in reaction content, and it's just me and Robo's face just staring into the screen, not reacting.
Did you watch Bo Burnham's Inside, Robert?
No, I have not. I've heard good things.
He basically does that.
That is odd. Damn it.
I just to burst the bubble now because I feel bad.
No, it's
I have
fine.
been telling,
It's
I
not
mean,
the
I'm
first
sure
time
the
this
whole
happened.
world has, but I have been telling Robert to watch Inside, like, since it came out.
Robert, the best time to have an existential crisis is right before any significant life changes that might happen. So definitely watch Bo Burnham's Inside sooner rather than later. You won't have time for it later.
All right, you got it. It's on my to-do. It's on my to-do.
But enough of me rambling on about my narrow interest in comedy. While you have so much similar in terms of your comedic dynamic, please, everyone, genuinely go. This is not. They're paying me a lot, but this is not just a plug for co-op comedy.
Either
We
here
have
or
a
there.
budget? We don't have a budget.
Go check out their stuff. They work great together. But I remember watching you guys individually first on Twitch, and there's differences in your sensibilities. Robert, let's start with you because
Let's start with me.
yeah, you started you were streaming on Mixer before you came to Twitch and started doing your goofs there.
Now listen, we've seen something here that we have not seen since the dawn of time. Okay, the dawn of time, since sliced bread, nothing like this has been going on for years, okay? For years.
Were you doing?
No.
No.
I did not do any goofs when I first started. It took a while to break out of the shell of like streaming because I'm not naturally like turn on the camera. Yup, everybody, let's go. It was very much.
He is now.
It's like a muscle, right? It's like you get used to it. You break out of your shell more and become more of who you are as time goes on. Naturally, like even when you meet people for the first time, you're a little more reserved. You're not 1,000% you until you get to know them more and hang out more, and then you open up and open up and open up. It's kind of the same with streaming. When I was on Mixer, the game I was playing a lot during that summer was Call of Duty Warfare or Warzone, whatever the battle royale is called.
Yeah.
I love the idea of serious Robert Highwind just on Mixer. Like, all right, I'm in. They're coming from the left.
VODs.
They're out on west. Okay, I sniped him. Let's go. Like, just really serious.
Yeah,
You guys need to do for an anniversary or something, like when you guys look back, you need to react to like first streams, like your individual first streams, like that. I'm sure that's in the pipeline already. That would be great.
I recorded my old. I downloaded the VODs of my old stuff, and it was just literally a square me in like just playing Call of Duty, barely talking. I mean, there was no one to talk to it, and I was just doing it to do it. Like you have to just do it. You have to get the nervousness jitters out. You have to fuck up and be. I'm sorry. Are we allowed to curse?
Of course.
Absolutely.
We're about to
thank
up and you got to get it all out, right? So that was just me. My streams were boring. There was no goofs, no nothing. But as time went on, as I like started talking with people in chat and kind of opening up, a little bit of myself comes out, and this and that and this and that, and then I think Cait, you were there for that first goof, which was trying the McDonald's spicy chicken nuggets.
Oh
yeah.
God.
1 second. Let me just get in my car. Whoop whoop. Hello. I got the nuggets, everybody. Here we are. Nuggets. I was just over there in McDonald's.
As I started thinking more creatively, like trying to become more creative and like do different things on stream, that idea just popped in my head of just being just fucking, I don't know. I mean, I have a green screen, so I'm like, what if I just went and got them, like, you know, all that like McDonald's goof that you guys saw, and that really clicked, and that felt good because like, oh, my weird humor is funny to people. So then you just double down on it. You just keep thinking of stupid things to do. Some work, some don't. I hope I answered your question. I don't even remember what your question.
Oh no, you 100% did. And for full context, I went back onto your channel earlier today and your YouTube channel, Robert Highwind, and watched like a couple of those Batman goof videos.
When Batman comes home to Wayne Manor, I mean, not Wayne Manor. That's not where I go.
You let go. You stopped giving a fuck, right?
Right, basically. You're just like, this is my humor, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I find it funny. It's kind of like, you know, they say do what makes you laugh or do what makes you happy, and then if you attract that like audience to it, or what, not audience, friends, or whatever, like whatever you want to do what you like, and then the people will come to that.
Did you find it was like a bit of a longer process to come out of your shell, or was it like, I'm going to try this one time, I felt confident doing it the one time, and now I'm good to go?
I think I'm very much the type of person where if someone laughs at something I do, that will give me more confidence than ever. I'll be like, oh yeah, okay, here we go. It's like a very comedian way of like, oh, you got to laugh, let's go for a bigger laugh.
Big ego boost for sure.
Yeah, so yeah, that's how we.
Not in a bad way, but you know, it does help build the confidence.
Absolutely. Like, yeah, my wife gets annoyed because she knows that, right? So if I do something and it makes her laugh, I'm like, yeah, and I double that. She's like, okay, it was funny the first time. Like, you don't need to do that. It's less funny the seventh time you did the same joke within 5 minutes. Like, I'm like, okay. Like, it's laughter is seriously a drug to me. And
it's yeah.
And so kind of did it. Like, I was like, oh yeah, what's the next goof? I got to think of it. But that adds like a pressure to like outdo yourself every time, and it could get to you. So there's a dark side of comedy, everybody.
You heard it here first. I know no
Robo, going from comedy
laughter is a drug.
Some
drugs.
Oh no. You dabbled in some improv comedy, correct?
Oh yeah, I did improv. Why did my voice just crack? I just hit puberty, so
much.
Improv. I'm really happy to be here. No. Yeah, I did improv, I did sketch, I did stand up. I did all the live comedy stuff for a long while before starting on Twitch. And it's funny, Robert, hearing you talking about Mixer, because I just remembered that I had started on Twitch playing Borderlands, which is another like first person shooter. It's not like as serious per se as like Call of Duty, but like I just remembered like my first streams was playing Borderlands, just like, all right, here we go. I'm gonna bang bang. Like it's totally different from the
Bang
content I make
bang.
now. Yeah.
Bang bang in the
But
Borderlands.
yeah, comedy wise, I did all that. And for real, like comedy is like this addictive drug when you know, having done like stand up open mics where you get on that stage and I swear to God, it's like you black out for a second as long as you're for the entire period you're on stage. And then like I used to record myself so I could like listen back and be like, oh, that joke worked, right? And you'd be on stage, you'd get like a laugh and you'd be like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever that's ever happened to anyone. And then you listen back and like what you thought was like this huge uproarious laugh is a couple people like ha ha ha. You know, like it's this really small thing, but because you're on stage and you're just like, please laugh at anything, it feels like the smallest little laugh is like, oh, thank God. We got one, guys. We can go home. Okay, like
Wrap it up.
but yeah, so it's and then every time they don't laugh, you're like, well, I'll just die here immediately. So it's devastating.
Yeah.
Why did you even start doing that little bit of stand up? That was it just that route of improv that then led you to like, okay, I feel like there's this here, and you wanted to, you know, go solo, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, no, it was a couple things. Like for one, I love comedy in any form. I love performing as a whole, but specifically with comedy. I had done a sketch series on YouTube with a friend of mine, and the thing that I found really sort of freeing with stand-up was being on my own, but not necessarily in the sense of like controlling the content or whatever, but like not having to worry about scheduling anything with anyone else. I could just go to an open mic at any time that I'm free. I don't have to worry about like, oh, is this other person free? And then we have to edit this thing. And it's like, I can just go, I can write the jokes, go to another one. Like it was a lot more flexible in that regard, which was really nice. And I just wanted to explore sort of a different medium that I hadn't tried yet, and really enjoyed it. So it's also terrifying and difficult as hell, but that's all the fun things, right?
So now that you two are doing comedy on screen, how does that feel differently to doing comedy in person? Like how do you feel good about the content when you're not getting, you know, when you're not hearing the laughs?
Bold of you to assume we feel good about it.
We only do it for the hate of that one commenter. We thrive on those.
You guys sound stupid. You're not funny. Thanks.
Okay, bye.
16 billion other channels. You
Yeah.
It's the fuel, you know?
What drives us?
Yeah.
We devour. No, that's a very good point because there is not that like instantaneous reaction. Like at best, if you're live on Twitch or something, you have that like people putting that little laughing emojis in chat.
I
but,
mean,
like,
that's what I do in
very
your
different.
stream. I type ha 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 when I'm legitimately laughing, but you don't know that. I'm just alone in my room with my headphones on, like, my friend's funny, you know? but sometimes
sort of
I feel like it doesn't always
yeah.
come across.
Yeah, and that's like the best case scenario is somebody actually typing something in the chat, but they might be laughing, you don't know, because maybe they're doing the dishes or something, just listening, and they're just laughing quiet to themselves. If they're laughing at all, you don't know. But that's sort of the downside is even if they're not, or the upside is even if they're not laughing, you can just think they're laughing somewhere. Like you don't know because you can't hear the silence either. So
yeah,
True.
I think it's kind of what benefits us is that we are each other's audience. So I anything I say is. I think it's funny. I think it's funny for him. Like I'm trying to make him laugh with my stupid jokes while we're playing or whatever. And so it's nice to have someone to bounce off of because we could like before we even hit record, we'll be bouncing off each other, saying stupid things to make each other laugh. It's different when it's streaming by yourself because again, like you said, you're not getting any feedback except chat, but it's still kind of awkward because your headphones are in, you kind of just hear a muffled your own sound and like no one's around. You're just sitting there like joke, and then there's there's something like
Yeah.
physical to comedy where like during stand-up, right, you're moving around, you can grab the mic and like it's kind of loose, and but like when you're streaming, you're just like in this chair, like strapped on, like it's like a freaking science experiment making you like say jokes to the camera now, and you're like, okay, this guy did this, haha, hoo hoo, and you're like, you know what I mean? It almost feels like a like a prisoner trapped in a thing to make
Oh
people
my
laugh.
God.
Yeah. I have three thoughts on what you just said. One, I think you hear people talk a lot about in the world of content creation, like if you make content that you want to watch, right? Like if you don't want to watch your content, why would anyone else? Like you hear that sort of idea. And I think because we now work together, we spend a lot of time, just like you said, trying to make each other laugh. And so I know, well, if I'm making Robert laugh, then probably at least one other person is out there laughing, and vice versa, right? So if he's making me laugh, and then we create our own laugh track because we're just laughing at the thing that the other person said. So that's really nice when working together. But like, one thing that I always really love about watching Robert on Twitch is like, I love when people find a way to create humor within the medium that they're working in, right? Because like I do work for an improv company that does like, they basically are taking what would have been their live shows and putting them on Twitch now, which works fine. You know, it's what a lot of people have had to do. But I love when they do like one of the shows that they do now is like it's an improvised Zoom meeting. So it'll be like a family getting together for a Zoom chat. So they're finding a way to like do an improvised show within the medium of Zoom as opposed to like trying to make this other thing work. And like watching Robert do like all these green screen goofs or like Zoom goofs or whatever. Like I love watching people find ways to use the medium that they're in to create this humor. So like when you're talking about like, you know, on stage, you can move around, grab the mic, do this and all that. That's sort of what people do on Twitch now with like Zoom goofs, right? That's sort of like, oh, that's like me leaning in or like whatever. Like I love finding people
Right.
who know how to use the medium to enhance what they're doing.
Right.
That's really clever. I enjoy that.
That's why when I went back onto your channel, Robert, like that's what stuck in my head. Like I was just like, oh my god, yeah, I remember when it was the, you know, that mouth right there, put into the Batman cowl. And
Yeah.
Smile. I'll never forget the haunting little smile behind the Batman mask.
but then when I went to go and look at co-op comedy and but also what, like Chris, to watch your stuff as Robodessert and to see that evolution, because I think that Robert, I ended up coming across you after like Chris and Cait and I had met, and it is, but for both of you, honestly, I'll say this now because otherwise I'll say it later when we've maybe got into some deeper conversation. Who knows? And I would just get emotional and start crying because that's who I am at the moment. I'm just so happy that you guys ended up, you know, coming together to make things together, because it is, you know, we were all there in 2020 when all four of us were streaming on Twitch to a handful of viewers and we were just there for each other. But then to see, you know, and it's not about the numbers, and actually now I'm getting around to the point I wanted to get about, what about when people take the time, because in Twitch chat, people might type, you know, I always type the LUL like that, like, oh, like that laughing. And I mean that, like, I'm actually laughing at that. But again, Cait, like Cait says, you don't know it, really, for sure. You don't actually have that feedback. But when someone actually takes the time to type a comment in response to a co-op video or a TikTok you put out or whatever it is, and it's there for as long as the internet's going to be there, for as long as YouTube's going to be there, and they say, I'm crying laughing, or like, oh my god, you guys are hilarious, this, you know, this, or even, you know, yeah, in a more, you know, chintzy, you know, cliche, cheesy Joe Medforce wholesome sense, like, oh, this really helped make my day, this made me smile, and I was having a really difficult one. I think that's because even a stand-up show, like, the laugh is fleeting, right? Like, the moment of laughter, you might get someone come up to you after a set and be like, oh my god, the show was amazing. But people don't tend to do that. But people who do comment online when they're not being idiots and assholes, like, why are you talking so much? How do you guys feel when you see those comments and you get those reactions to what you do?
I think it's a similar high. I think because
Absolutely.
like we both are logged into the Co-op Comedy YouTube Gmail, so we'll see when a comment comes in, both of us. And a lot of times when we get like a really good comment, we're like, yo, this was hilarious. You guys got a sub from me or whatever. Like we treat that to us, that's like the equivalent of saying a good joke and getting the laugh. But like it feels a lot more solidified, because now it's like now not only did this person come to the show and laughed, this person is going to come to our show from now on, and we've made a connection with him, right? So it feels stronger when the comment is like that. But it's kind of weird on YouTube, right? Because like no one, because I feel like on YouTube you don't go LOL, that's my comment for this video. Like no one, those emotions that you feel, whether or not you laughed or cried or whatever, like people feel, I feel like need to, or like they feel like they need to have like a grandiose comment. Oh, I have commentary to say to this video, and if I don't have anything to say, I'm not going to comment at all. Like even a LOL or whatever, right? People, it's like it's longer form or something like that. Or if it's just going to be mean, the mean ones can be short. This is stupid. Enter, and I moved on with my life. So let's normalize just putting LOL as a comment.
It's great. I'll take LOL. Or just like the little laughing emoji. Just leave that as
just
that's
put a bunch of those
fantastic. Yeah. Love that.
right in there. Goes right in there.
Yeah.
Or hit that like
Aw.
button. That's a really good one. It helps the algorithm, and I think you like the video in general.
It does two things. It does two good things for my serotonin levels. It helps put them up where they need to be.
Yeah. I will say, much like laughter in real life, and I'm sure anyone who has ever made a joke will get what I'm saying with this. As soon as you read that comment, or as soon as you get that laugh, it's like, oh, that's fantastic. How do I do that again?
Next.
Forever. How do I repeat that? How do I get the next hit? What do we? I need more. I really kind of need another hit there.
Teach me how to Control C, Control V. That
Exactly. Yeah.
You mean I
Forever.
drip of that?
That exact feeling. Yeah. 100%.
Something that I really appreciate about both of you, and probably why I chose to stick around when I first found you both on Twitch, and is when it comes to people being funny in general and watching stand-ups, I definitely prefer comedy that is a little more on the wholesome side, or rather, doesn't try to get laughs off of being like really lewd and inappropriate. And I feel like you have really found I don't really know if it's like a niche market necessarily, but it's just something that I've noticed that I really appreciate. What do you think about the growth of comedy in like the last decade, as we've kind of entered this cancel culture with, comedians who have said some not funny things, let's just say?
Where to begin?
Big question, I know.
Yeah.
I thought I was here for laughs. What happened? I'm sad all of a sudden. I feel like the professional comedian should take this answer.
I don't know about professional. Whoa, wait a minute, time out. No, I don't know. Like there's so many facets to that. Like one, to your point, I myself have always really been drawn to comedians that don't do, shock humor or humor that is, especially humor that punches down in any way. Or I like, one of my favorite comedians of all time is Jim Gaffigan, who's known as the King of Clean. He's notorious for when he started out, he did all kinds of stuff. He would do jokes about sex, whatever, he would curse a whole bunch. And then eventually he was like, wait, I can do this other thing and do it really well. So there's no reason for me to do this thing. Like, and so all of his sets are like essentially very family friendly. He might hit on topics that deal with like having sex with his wife or something like that, but he phrases it in such a way, and the actual subject of the joke is not actually about the sex. It'll be about like the concept of buying lingerie for somebody when really it's for you, like that sort of thing, right? Like,
Right.
So the subject matter of his jokes is very clean, even if he's dealing with topics that are maybe less family friendly. But I always love humor like that, or humor that is more analytical and sort of clever, like a lot of Mike Birbiglia stuff, where he goes into these, like his entire 1-hour show will be sort of one story about him being in this car accident, but then he goes into all the ups and downs of that without having to make some joke about black people for the sake of making a joke about, like, he doesn't have to go to these areas where other comics might
Sure.
feel like they have to go to in order to get a reaction.
Yeah.
Which, like, not that there's not value to some of that comedy out there, but I feel like a lot of times, for me, in my personal opinion, I feel like a lot of that stuff is just like people just wanting to make a joke to get a reaction rather than to actually make something funny. But like the whole idea of this cancel culture thing that has started to go around, I think it's kind of a load of BS, because like, a lot of the comics that people are talking about are like, oh, they're going to get canceled. It's like, well, no, they just sold out in, Madison Square Garden again. So they're not super canceled, are they? They're kind of doing pretty well, I think. So And like there's a really great podcast episode with Mark Maron on WTF where he talks with Cliff Nesteroff, who's like a historian of comedy. And he talks about like in the 50s and the 60s when there were people that would legitimately be canceled by like if they said the wrong things on a stage, it was legal for them to be arrested and put in jail for saying certain things. And it's like comedians have had to go through that sort of shit just to be where we are. So then for you to be like, this guy's getting canceled because he said this thing, it's like, no, he's not getting canceled. He's getting called out. That's different. You know, he's getting called out on something that is like potentially damaging to an entire subset of people, and that we can't like we're just not going to say that that's okay anymore. That's different than canceling him.
I think people like to go to the extreme every time something happens. So like comedians get called out for something or whatever, and people like to like steer the wheel all the way to the other side of the extreme and be like, well, comedy's dead, everybody. We can't say nothing anymore. We can't do. You can say whatever you want, but people are going to call you out if it's stupid, and you're just going to have to deal with that. No one's saying don't say that. Go ahead and say that. And if you attract the audience that's okay with that, then there you go. That's your audience now. Like, no one's getting thrown in jail. No one's like, nothing's happening. Like cancel culture, like people like to like brand everything, right? Cancel culture, TM. Or registered trademark, and like people like to use this and like, oh, poor me. It's like, bro, you're fine, everything's fine.
Yeah. Especially nowadays where like you can have an audience anywhere, right? Like you can make your whole YouTube channel be like this really aggressive comedy or whatever, and like maybe you'll have trouble selling out a particular stadium or something, but like you can go have that content out there. Nobody's stopping you from having that content. We're just saying we're not going to watch it anymore. That's our choice. So
basically, I think to get back to the wholesome thing, I mean, I grew up on like things like Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry, all this other stuff, which was like very like, you can classify it as wholesome. Like they weren't really saying things. It was more like physical comedy and this and that. The reason I guess I gravitate towards like this, like I don't have to say sex and big dick and all this other stuff just to make people laugh or whatever. Because I feel like it's wholesome comedy in general is harder to do because you have to take such a mundane topic and make it really funny. Like how do I take a freaking mug and make you laugh with this mug, right? Like that's wholesome. Like a child could laugh at it, right? But it's harder to do because it's just not like there's no like trigger point to it, right? It's not a taboo topic that people are like, ooh, he said boobies on stage or whatever. Yeah. So it's a lot, I think, harder, and so I like that kind of stuff. Just because it's like, and it's things I'll never think about, right? Everyone thinks about like sex and like racial jokes or all this other stuff. Like that's just so easy to do. But like freaking like Pete Holmes, and is one of my favorite comedians, will make a joke about how he hates when a like fantasy novel talks about realms. He's like, anytime I talk about realms, I'm out of there. Don't put me in a realm. And like just the way he says realm, and like, see, like you guys are laughing. Like that's not what's so funny about me saying realm. The way he says it, and like gets mad at it, and he doesn't like when he's in realms. He's like, they see a wizard. He's like, oh, you must go to that realm, and he's like, nope, I'm out of here. I'm not going to no realms. It's just funny to me. It's just so stupid.
It's funny that you. Oh, go ahead, Joe.
No. I'm but a person who talks so much all the time. Please, Chris, go ahead with your point.
I was gonna say it's funny that you bring up Pete Holmes because on this topic of like the whole sort of wholesome comedy, Pete Holmes, I listened to an interview with him about a specific joke that he had. I'm gonna butcher the joke, but he was at an airport wearing a particular shirt that had like green eggs and ham on it, and a woman at an airport, like somebody that worked there, was like, "What you know about green eggs and ham, right?" And so he did this whole bit about this woman at the airport, and he was saying in the interview that over the time the joke changed, and he stopped doing this particular voice for this woman, right? Because it was. I think at the time he was trying to make it sound like quote unquote like maybe like a stereotypical black woman, because I think that it was a black woman at the airport. But he realized over time that in doing that joke and using that voice, he wasn't necessarily concerned with it being offensive per se, but if you use certain tropes and things, there might be people in the audience that will get caught up on that, and now they're not in the joke with you anymore. Right. Mm-hmm. So he started to alter the joke to just remove anything that could be like not so much be offensive, but like, are people going to stop for a second and go, is that voice offensive? Are they going to be worried about that even if they're not offended by it? And now they're not with the joke, and now you've lost them in the joke. Right. So like remove all of this stuff that doesn't need to be in there so you can get back to the joke. And so I think that's something that I think about with my humor a lot. Anytime I make like a YouTube video, if I clip something and I'm like, could this be taken out of context? Like, obviously, I'm worried about it being offensive because I don't want to be offending anybody. But also, I'm like, are there going to be people that are now worried about that, and now they're no longer paying attention to the joke or the subject of the clip? So I think that's something I think about with my comedy a lot too. Is like, or anything that I do, I'm like, okay, but let's make sure that everything is focused to what we're actually talking about.
Yeah,
I think
you want the joke and the funny thing to stand by itself as funny.
And I think that there is such a line to be drawn, and forgive me because this is probably a tenuous connection as any, but Robert, you mentioned that, growing up you watch Looney Tunes, and that is hand-drawn art and animation, right? So even if they were just thinking, oh my god, what funny situation can we put Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner in, Tom and Jerry, like whatever, in now, they had to take the time to actually put that together and put it so that you could watch the reruns of it when you were growing up, and we all could, and it's still funny. Like, it's all of that slapstick comedy, the Laurel and Hardy, Three Stooges inspired, like all of that is still funny. Like, physical comedy is funny. And then going straight across to, but that happens over time. Like, the stuff that is no longer funny because, there's a reason why Disney doesn't want people to remember about Song of the South, and the fact that actually when they do re-release it, they're going to put a header in front of it to say, like, hey, this was made in a different time. They're going to be like, we're not going to try and erase this, or, but we're just going to be aware of the fact that, yeah, hey, look, this is a thing that was made, and people, will have a fondness of it because of that, but, like, actually it was made and it was racially insensitive. Like, is the thing. And that's obviously a different... But the Pete Holmes thing of, he did that joke at first, and he was doing it based on his experience, but then he realized that him retelling that experience in the way that he was retelling it, because when you create something, when you make something, you are the arbiter of it in a sense of, like, you choose how that is delivered to people. And so that's fascinating because most people are familiar with the idea of stand-up comedians workshopping their stuff. They do smaller gigs at clubs when they're working towards maybe, if it's big names we know, there's a whole Jerry Seinfeld documentary about, comedians and him, for going to do stand-up for the first time in years and workshopping his stuff and, like, struggling with it at times because he has come off and he's, big Jerry Seinfeld problems because he's Jerry Seinfeld, but he's, he doesn't get the laughs because it's like his stuff is maybe out of touch, maybe not funny yet. But the idea that, anyone is thinking that, my immediate thought thinking about them, because I listened to that Mark Maron episode you mentioned before we recorded, Chris. It's fantastic. Please go and listen to it. Cancelled Comedy, episode 1278 of Mark Maron's W2EF podcast. It's in the doc. I didn't remember that. Anyways, but it's just fascinating to think about. Yeah, Lenny Bruce was jailed multiple times for saying stuff which nowadays is considered tame. Because at the time, but also Lenny Bruce was an intelligent comedian. He made those choices. He wasn't just, he was pushing the boundaries. He was a provocative personality, but he wasn't doing it for the sake and he wasn't trying to punch. I mean, I'm sure there were instances where he probably did punch down and he made some bad jokes, but that was not what he was doing it for. He wasn't trying to punch down on people. He wasn't, trying to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because with, like, Lenny Bruce, he was like, I think there is sort of something to the idea of, like, doing edgy comedy or doing comedy to evoke a reaction, because that's sort of what Lenny Bruce was doing, and he was getting put in jail, and that was sort of, to an extent, the reaction that he was looking for. He was like, I know I can't say this thing, and it's stupid that I can't say this thing, so I'm going to say this thing to showcase how stupid it is that I can't say this thing. But we're no longer in that period, right? Like, people aren't going to jail for the things that they're saying. They're just getting called out for it, like we said. So I think there's still this mindset for some comedians where they're like, I'm going to be the next Lenny Bruce, and I'm going to say these really edgy things because I can't say them. It's like, but you can now. Like, thankfully, we no longer need Lenny Bruce. We don't need you to be the next Lenny Bruce anymore. We're chilled, you know? But there's this mindset where, you know, some comedians are like, I have to do this for comedy. It's like, no, you don't. you don't. Comedy's fine.
Wait, who's Robert? I feel like you have a solid like Jeff Goldblum impression, or I'm remembering it wrong. Like it's the.
I may, but it's also very terrible.
But it's the they, you know. You were so preoccupied with whether you you didn't stop to think that you should. You know, it's that, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's important. You guys touched on this a little bit, Joe. You were mentioning like the whole like bad humor from back in the day with like a preface that says like, "Hey, this was made in a previous time." I think it's important to keep those things so that people know how terrible things were. Like me and my wife recently went back and watched King of Queens because I loved that show growing up. But man, do they make some not okay humor there. Like they make a ton of gay people jokes, and every time they made one, I was like, ugh. Like that's like not funny.
Yeah.
You just said it for haha something, you know what I mean? Like, but there's no humor to it, no nothing. Like that's not funny anymore.
Yep. Because
it was very off-putting to hear it, but it's not like what was it on HBO Max? I think they didn't like cut it out, right? I think it's important to keep it in there so you can see it, so you can learn from it, and so you can move on and move forward and be better. So yeah, a lot of people like want to try. People talk about like I guess erasing certain like things or like cleaning it up or whatever to make it okay for this time. I think it's better to then just keep it as is, but like move on and do better so that you know how bad it was. Like a weird analogy I like to go to. This is going to be extremely personal. In Armenia, like we were under the Soviet Union, and so there were statues of the Soviet like presidents and all this other stuff, like praising them and this and that, right? But we know the Soviet Union sucks. So once like the whole thing happened, it crashed. They removed all of those statues, and then like it took maybe 10 years, and everyone who was under the Soviet Union, like everyone that used to be under the Soviet, were like, man, life was better under the Soviet Union. Like everyone just forgets so easily the history and what you had to go through, and then because like when it's not in the center of your mind and you're not thinking about it, it's like people will then think about the old times or something and be like, oh, it's so good or this and that. Like we have to move forward. We're getting better as we're moving forward. Don't try to like sugarcoat the weird racist stuff that Disney did. Like Disney did do this, but now they are not doing this. Like times change, things get better.
Yeah, for everyone, right? It's like, wouldn't it be nice if we live in a world where things continue to get better for everyone? Like that's only gonna happen when we learn not just from our immediate past, you know, the 30s collective something years, 3 decades that we've all been living on this planet, but from the 30 years before that and before that and before that. Because it was so fascinating to me to listen and hear those quotes that historian brought to that Mark Maron episode of like you know what will become of comedy in you know the 30s, and it's just like, oh well, comedy's still here and it's doing great.
Yeah,
exactly. Like like they were like, oh, I can't make Italian jokes, comedy's dead.
Yeah.
Good Lord,
I'm sorry, your whole spiel was based in something terrible. Like
come on. Like this is why like it's important to know the history, because I didn't know that type of stuff. But listening to that episode, I was like, wow, I cannot believe that people were saying that back in the day. Like now you're telling me I can't do blackface, comedy's dead. Like shut the hell up. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And it just goes to show, I mean, you know, like that's, I think to your point about leaving things how they were and putting like a, you know, warning in front of it or whatever. It's like, because at the time it's not that stuff wasn't offensive then. It just was, but people weren't talking about it as much, or the people who it was offending didn't have a voice yet, you know, and couldn't say how it was hurting them, or we didn't know how it was hurting people. So it's like, it's not like, oh, it's suddenly offensive now. It's like, no, it already was. You just know about it now. And the fact that you're trying to push against that is like, no, we've told you it's offensive. Just do a different joke. That's it. We're not saying you can't do jokes. Just do something different. That's it. That's all you got to do.
Absolutely.
Comedy.
Well said.
Comedy, baby.
Take a deep breath. Let's detox after that
Sorry,
serious
okay.
conversation.
On a positive
that was a
note,
lot.
I was
Yeah.
remembering because Robert, you were talking about watching Looney Tunes, and I was remembering like um one of like the earliest like memories I have of like me trying to do comedies when I was like, I don't know, 6 to like 10, something like that. I lived next to this kid named Michael, and we were like best friends. We would like go and ride our bikes together and like do all this stuff. And I remember this one time where Michael like fell off his bike or something, got hurt. And I remember specifically trying to make jokes to make him laugh to feel better. And like I only have one memory of that, but I also like have like sort of a hazy memory of like that being sort of a constant thing in our friendship of like, oh, something would happen, I'll make a joke to make him feel better. And I just like I think that's sort of where one basis of my comedy is like use comedy for good, like use comedy to make things better in some way. So if it's not making it better, why are you making the joke? Sort of, you know, if it's not improving something, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's funny that you say you had a friend named Michael. I also had a best friend named Michael back in the day. Were you in like
same Michael?
Same Michael? Fucking what the hell, Michael?
My friend.
Why'd you go riding bikes with him, Michael? You didn't ride bikes with me.
With great humor comes great responsibility.
Yeah,
true.
And
true.
and with that in mind, we had a pie in the sky fantasy question, right, Cait?
Yes.
Take it away.
You know, especially with Robert, I think you've kind of, for the people who have watched your streams, you've been known to have your goofs. You're the goof king, whatever you want to call it. And I've heard you talking before, like, you know, a future dream is to have a goof room where you just have a room that's like basically all green screen props to do all the goofs your heart desires. If money and variables were no object, what is like the greatest goof idea you have so far?
Before the answer, when you said goof room, I just thought it would be like filled with whoopee cushions. Sorry.
I said props.
Yeah, when you said props, I was just like, it's an entire room, and it's just.
I was thinking like whose line is it anyway, where they do what is that called?
The props one? Yeah.
The prop
name.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Sorry, that's just what my brain immediately went on. I had to get it out. Go on, Robert. What would be and Chris, of course, the question's posed to you. Do you guys have one together, or what's the ultimate goof idea?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like the one thing I want to do, because I can't do in the medium that we're working in, is like physical comedy. I'm very physical in my way. Like it's hard to do when you're sitting, but like if I could stand and do funny things, like I move around a lot. So it would have to be something where we would be like out and about doing something like that costs a ton of money or some. I can't imagine what it would be, but it would have to be. It wouldn't be on a couch playing a game type of thing. It would be outside. But I can't think of what would be extremely funny. But like I don't know, man. Like Chris, do you have anything?
I mean, I always, you know, because this is something that in the sketch series we were doing intelligent design with my friend Jose. We always talked about like wanting, like, man, if we had the money and we could just hire a helicopter and like set up like an explosion shot somewhere, like just like these really extreme things, but for like the most mundane sketches, right? Like it's a sketch about putting waffles in a toaster for breakfast or something, but then there's like this helicopter shot and it becomes like this huge action thing just for like one joke. Like I love the idea of like all of our sketches or whatever we do, all of our videos are like really mundane or whatever. And then you just have this one where one shot costs like $2 billion. But so then part of the joke becomes they spent $2 billion for that one shot. They didn't even have to, you know, like, and the sketch is funny on its own, but also the humor is like, you got, or like hiring a celebrity or something, you know, like there's this sketch group called Britannic they're absolutely absurd. And they got to have Nathan Fillion in one of their sketches just randomly. And just like the idea of having like some really big celebrity, like you guys got John Stamos for, he's just there like for like a really, he just comes in, grabs a cup of coffee and leaves. Like just something really small. You might even miss it, but just the idea of like that really huge Easter egg sort of thing. amidst all this really mundane stuff. I always love stuff like that.
When you said John Stamos, like waffles, like I had the whole scene in my head. We're putting a waffle in like the thing. Helicopter comes down. John Stamos comes out of the helicopter, hands us the waffle through like the mail slit. We open it up. We see his face. We're like, hey, thanks. We do nothing with it. Just like, thanks, man. Just close the door on it and take the waffle and put it in.
That's it. Just something really small like that. We don't acknowledge that it's John Stamos, or we do, but we are like really nonchalant about it. Yeah, it's John Stamos. He delivers our waffles. Like, you know, just something really, really small.
Hi.
Yeah, there'd be like a behind the scenes of co-op comedy where it's like, yeah, this is where we film. This is where we do this. This is our bathroom. This is where John Stamos makes our waffles. Hey, guys. And then like,
he's like the boom arm mic guy.
Yeah, exactly. Just something really small like that.
You guys,
like
you know,
I had some time to think about a really expensive goof. And I think I may have come up with something. It would be co-op comedy survival game, but the survival game is us actually on an island trying to survive. And like
that would be amazing.
I think just me and Chris trying to figure things out is always funny because our mind works in different
Minecraft in
ways.
real life. Can you imagine?
Can we escape this island together?
You ever had horse meat?
No, have you?
No.
Are you sad about that?
I'm not sad.
You sound sad. It's not even that you sound sad. It's that you sound jealous of like somebody specific. Jerry's had horse meat. Fuck you, Jerry. Have you had horse meat? No.
Oh, come on, I can't have horse meat.
But yeah,
I love that
more
idea.
physical comedy, basically.
You want to film a wrestling promo, but like real.
Yeah, I mean, I would love for me and you to like
Rage
wrestle in real life.
Yeah.
One time when I used to work at our local YMCA, me and this other friend of mine, like basically produced a wrestling match in the boxing ring that they had, unbeknownst to management, and we went and like rehearsed the whole like shtick and everything, and it's one of the best things I've ever done in my life.
Okay,
it was super fun, and yeah, a lot of twists and turns.
You said rehearsed. Is there video evidence of this happening?
Yeah, that's gonna stay in the Highwind vault.
That's completely fair. That's 100% fair. I think if I had put together any, I was one of those kids with like the "Can you smell what the Rock is cooking" T-shirts, and you know, it never quite went there in terms of wrestling. But we had, before going live, mentioned wrestling because that is at various times comedic performance. Like, it's such an interesting form of entertainment. And Robert, you love wrestling, right? Like,
I love wrestling. Guys, I love wrestling.
but what made you, with your friend at the YMCA, put together a wrestling match that you filmed that will unfortunately never see the light of day until you decide to say fuck it?
I mean, we both really liked wrestling.
That was it.
That's basically it. Like, we would talk about wrestling, and they were like, "What have we wrestled?" And they were like, "There's a boxing ring over there," so we would just go there and try to like slam each other, and then that just turned into, "Hey, what if we have a ref? Oh, what if we do this? We could do entrances," and it just kind of snowballed. And we could get the whole staff to come watch us while we wrestled. We put on a hell of a show. I'm gonna tell you that. We had a spot where he would throw me against the wall. It would look like he went off script and threw me against the wall, but we hid like a blood pack on the floor. So he threw me against the wall, and I can do a really good like, oh god, I got slammed in my head. I used to practice this when I was younger, how to like take a hit but not look like I took a hit. So like I would do that a lot to my mom, and she would get mad. So like, because I would like, as I got older, I would like study. I'm like, how are they doing it without hitting each other? And it's like you grab like their head, right, and you're going for the punch, and you just kind of like miss them, right? But like you do it so fast, it looks like you're punching them in the face. And I practiced that. I also practiced like throwing myself against the thing to make a thud without me hitting my head. There's just a lot of weird things I did as a kid. So then he threw me against the wall, big thud. Ref comes to check on me. He comes back, grabs me like to throw me back in the ring, and we rehearsed how he would like throw me back in the ring so the audience would see like this trail of blood. And I kid you not, they were like, it went from like woo, woo to oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Like people, people immediately thought something happened. And that's the reaction you get as a wrestler. Like, you are putting on a performance and you're trying to get a reaction of the audience. You have good guys, you have bad guys. You're trying to, at the core of wrestling, yeah, there's a lot of silly shit, right? Wrestling produced 30 years of television every week. You're going to run out of ideas. You're going to have stupid shit that you're going to do. Trust me. Game of Thrones messed up their last season. Can you imagine doing 30 years of Game of Thrones? The amount of characters that have to change their personas, they have to change their character slightly. You always have to be in a feud, right? There's no off season for wrestling. You don't take time off. You have writers. The writers are always cycling. The amount of content they have to churn is insane. So you're always going to have terrible things that come out,
You should
obviously.
start a YouTube channel.
I should.
No, they should. They should.
they
not
should.
you. Yeah.
I want to start a
Churning
wrestling
out content.
channel.
Not you. You don't start a YouTube channel.
Barely are doing what we're doing. Anyway, so there's so much that like goes into it, and a lot of it is funny. Like as wrestling moved on from being like big burly serious men, big slapping meat together and fighting and all this other stuff, right? The kids who grew up watching that are like my age now, a little older, like Xavier Woods. He's like in his like 30s. You know what I'm saying? Like these are people who grew up with video games, with wrestling, and so they know it's not real. They know, but to them, it's a performance. So they can get goofy. They can make jokes. They can portray silliness, and just wrestling in general. Seeing like the weird things they do is just funny in general. Like it's just the ultimate like performance theater art because it's like athletic. It's superhero ish. And I've said it once, and I'll say it again. The highest of highs of wrestling, like the highest of highs, will be any television show high that there is, and the lowest of lows are also the lowest of lows. I think wrestling has the highest highs
Works
and
in
lowest lows.
extremes.
Oh, it's extremely extreme. But I think that's the beauty of it because unlike like television, the audience is part of the show. Very, very much part of the show. There have been entire storylines that had to course correct based on audiences' reactions to certain wrestlers. Um, Booing certain wrestlers or cheering certain wrestlers, chanting their names during segments where they're not even there has completely altered the way that the company has like told a story. It's so cool because like imagine like you liked, I don't know, the Mountain from Game of Thrones when you first saw him, and you can cheer him on every time he was on stage and or on the show, and the more you cheered, the more his storyline evolved and got cooler and better, and then eventually like he could sit on the throne, right? Because you cheered him on so much because the audience loved him. That type of interaction is what wrestling gives you. Also doesn't give you a lot of time. Wrestling disappoints you a lot because the company will sometimes be like, I don't give a fuck what you're saying, we're going this way. So there are a lot of that. It's again, highest of highs, lowest of lows, the funniest of stupid moments. And it's great. There ends my rant.
It's not a rant. It is a ridiculous, passionate treaty on the power of wrestling performance and comedy. Like, I love it. So Chris, what have you got in response to that?
Wrestling goes brr, 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 no, I watched thanks to Robert, I watched some of the wrestling, and it really is like
The wrestling.
it's not any more ridiculous than some of the things that I've seen in like quote unquote very serious theater productions. You know what I mean? It's just like it focuses on the stunts more, not necessarily more than the stories, but like, you know, the stories are very over the top, but it's like it's an over the top medium. But like, you know, if you go in knowing that it's fake, who cares? So is all of television. Like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know. Like,
point.
people
That's
always love
very
to
true.
use that as like, well, wrestling's fake. It's like,
Yeah.
you think Marvel's real? Like,
Yeah, like what are you
so is Marvel. Like, why is that held in such high regard? But then wrestling, where it's done like live and these people are doing these insane stunts and still doing all this stuff, why is that treated like trash? Like, I don't understand.
It's
Like,
it's
I
there's
don't
the taboo of like 20 years ago when like the term in wrestling is called kayfabe, which is like be the wrestling persona is real. What happens here, we treat it as real. That doesn't exist anymore. But it used to exist very, very, very hard where if someone was portraying themselves as a bad guy, they would be a bad guy as a wrestler, they would be a bad guy off when they're regular Joe
Mhm.
Schmo. They would be that persona because they didn't want the fakeness to become real to the audience. You know what I'm saying? Like there was like a wrestler, like the Iron Sheik, right? He was portrayed as a stereotypical Iranian bad guy, and he would fight Hulk Hogan, who was like Mr. America, right? So you had like the most obvious stereotypical good guy, bad guy stories. But like the Iron Sheik is a guy from Detroit. Like he's not from Iran. He's not that. But like he portrayed that throughout the 80s and like had to just sit there being booed for his entire life, like hated because like everything was portrayed as real. That does not exist anymore. No one's here saying it's real, damn it. You know what I'm saying? So but people still have that like perception of what wrestling is. Like you think you're just waiting, just watch UFC. It's like, yeah, but here's the thing. I don't like watching people fight each other for real.
Yeah.
I don't want to see somebody's leg get broken or like somebody get choked out. I get it. It's like a real, martial art, and it's like a real sport, I guess, but I don't want to see people get beat up. I want fun, and wrestling is fun.
Yes,
Robert, we're gonna have to have you back for a whole episode about wrestling.
I want to do it. I want us to like play by play look at the Bonesaw scene from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and talk about why it's still so iconic. Macho Man Randy Savage is ready.
That scene is so iconic.
Come here, Spider Boy.
I got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime.
Oh my god.
Sorry.
I always remember the way, get you for 3 minutes.
Jesse uses those 3 fingers.
I got you for 3 minutes.
Amazing. Speaking of that, that scene, makes us laugh every single time. But what is a stand-up bit or a scene from a movie or TV show that can always make you laugh without fail?
I find for me, I usually like, I find sketch comedy does that for me. Certain sketches, like the Totino's pizza roll sketch with Kristen Stewart.
Saturday Night Live.
Saturday Night Live, yeah. It's just every time I watch it, it's so funny. And the sketch I shared with you all before we started recording from the sketch group Women on YouTube called Looking at Alan. It's absurd and it's short, but just some of the dialogue in it is just.
Oh my god. Doesn't he look amazing right now? He looks incredible. When was the last time you saw him? I don't know.
The way they set everything up, they're whispering the entire time. I'll just think about that sometimes. And that came out like 7 years ago, and I saw it like 7 years ago. But every now and then I'll just be sitting there and I'll just think of a line from that, and I'm like, yeah, you still got it. This little quotes just stick with me.
Yeah, when we watched that, it triggered in my head that Derek Comedy, which is Childish Gambino's sketch comedy group back in the day, like 10 years ago or something. He also did sketches like that, which was just very weird, very just absolutely random. But it still makes me laugh. There's one where the three of him and his two friends, they all go like to a hotel or something, like, and like they go upstairs, they're going to each go to their beds, but there's like this picture of a bowl of fruit, and then they all look at it, but like they're like, oh, look at that bowl of fruit. It's like, yeah, it looks sexy. And he looks like what? And he's like, nothing, no. But then like he keeps eyeing it. The whole joke is that they want to jerk off to it, like a bowl of fruit. But like it's so stupid. But like the intensity at which they commit to that bit, and like guy opens the door, he's like, no one's looking, and he's like tries to like sneak over to grab the picture of this fruit to go jerk off to it in his bed, and the other guy catches him. He's like, hey, we're gonna jerk off to that bowl of fruit. He's like, no, I wasn't. It's so stupid, but like it just it's so funny. Like the absurd is really funny to me. I just love humor that just goes into some random direction out of nowhere, just like the one we were watching with that Chris showed us. One of the most recent movies that I find extremely funny is Good Boys. I don't know if you guys seen that yet. It's basically like Superbad, but if instead of high school, they were in middle school, about to go to high school, I think. So they were like in 8th grade or something. And my God, it's so funny seeing these kids say the things they do, and it's all about like friendships too, right? These three kids, they call themselves the beanbag boys because they would sit on beanbags. It's about like, sometimes, friendships like grow apart because your interests are different. Like there's a whole like real good, nice message to it, but it's like layered with these like three kids going on this like crazy, super bad-esque adventure to go to a party, a makeout party. And the things they say is so freaking funny. Like one of my favorite scenes is they go to this college dorm room because they have to get Molly to give to another like older kid to get their drone back or something like. There's like this whole like fetch quest, right? So they go.
We have to get the drugs so we can get the drone so we can go to the party.
So they go to the college dorm room. Everyone's high in there. It's all weird and stuff. Eventually, like something happens. They get caught, this and that, and like the guy gets mad at them and like he's like cursing them out or something. He's like, you could suck my dick. And then the guy is like, blah blah blah. He's like, you could suck my dick. And then their third friend, he doesn't say anything to the third friend, and the third friend's like, what about me? and then like the other two like look at him and he's like, what? We're the beanbag boys. We do everything together. Like, it's so stupid. Like he just gets
See,
like,
wholesome. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, in the face of crude, lewd humor, it comes right back around to the wholesome.
Back to like beanbag boys. We do everything together. Like that quote. I love that quote so much.
Cait, what's the funny scene? What's the funny thing that always never fails to make you laugh?
Oh man, there's so many. I'm a creature of habit. I love watching the same movies over and over again. And one of my classic feel-good comedies is Forgetting Sarah Marshall. There's so much self-deprecating humor in there as well. Like when Jason Segel's at the piano and he's all sad and he's like, Peter, you suck. I sing that to myself all the time. And of course, got Russell Brand. We got... Paul Rudd saying, you sound like you're from London. Like, amazing. And Joe, I remember one time you and I randomly like realized that we both love that movie so much, and we proceeded to just like text each other like every single joke and line from that movie we could think of. And it was great.
Yeah, it's just, oh, the weather outside is weather.
Is that from that movie?
Yeah. It's Paul Rudd playing Chuck, aka Kunu, the surf instructor, and just off camera, like it's clearly like I think it must have been like an ad lib or an ADR line, I think, or maybe it was recorded on set. I don't know. But it's one of those like Judd Apatow produced like improv comedy, like it's from that era, right? 2008. But yeah, that is Paul Rudd just like wandering off onto the beach, at the end of a scene, going, "The weather outside is weather."
I made that joke to Tara. I've made.
You didn't even know
Christmas.
The source.
You stole it.
Christmas. I was like, "Oh, the weather outside is weather, but the weather inside is weather." Like I just. What the hell? That's crazy.
Bless
Guys,
Tara.
I'm Paul Rudd, apparently.
That's the takeaway. Yeah, that's what
we've learned today.
That is the takeaway. Ridiculous passions crossing over with co-op comedy. Robert Highwind, Robodessert. We change lives. We completely reshape the way you think of the jokes you tell to your significant others and the people you love in your life. Robo, Chris. And full disclosure for anyone who's watching this, whenever we release it, you're the very first, Robert, Chris, you're the first guests we've had on this show. Is there anything you'd like to say before we close out the show? Anything you'd like to promote or just put out into the world?
Co-op comedy.
YouTube.com/co-op comedy.
Co-op comedy, everybody.
You guys like comedy?
Comedy. Like the giggles and the haha. Click on our videos.
I love studying comedy. I'm reading 2 separate books on the psychology of comedy right now. Like I love comedy as a whole. And like
that's amazing.
It's very this very ethereal thing, sort of to an extent, where like people are like, if you try to study it, it sort of loses some of its magic. And I agree, but like I love listening to comedians talk about comedy and like the experience they have with like especially in stand-up, like the experience they have with the crowd. This wasn't the question. You were asking if there was anything you wanted to say.
No, it doesn't. You're saying it. It doesn't matter. Like you're saying what you want to say.
Comedy's beautiful. I like comedy. That's all. I just like comedy.
And we all know that Robert loves laughter.
I love laughter. That was a weird night. Man, I love laughter.
I love laughter.
So if you like laughter, if you like comedy, if you have enjoyed this, do all the nonsense things that YouTube and everywhere else wants you to do. Follow, like, share, subscribe. Go to youtube.com/co-op-comedy. Follow Robert Highwind at Robert Highwind and Chris, aka Robodessert. That's their ats on Twitter. They're at Co-op Comedy YT, I believe, on Twitter. And just subscribe, turn on notifications, check out their videos, and tell us, write that comment, whether it's a simple LOL or a laugh face emoji in the comments of the YouTube video, or you at us on Twitter to do it. Just do it. We'll know, you'll know, because you've been here, you're here this far, or write an essay about why we should stop talking. Who cares?
Either way, it feeds the algorithm.
Exactly.
The algorithm.
Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Cait, for laughing along with me, and all of us. And Cait, is there anything you want to say before we go?
Oh, I'm just really excited about this show. I'm so excited we got to have you two. I know you two are very busy providing all the laughs across all the platforms. So I really appreciate it. And, thank you for not only, talking about the ha-has, but getting into some more serious topics as well and just rolling with the punches. And I love you both. And thank you so much for being here.
Love you guys. Thank you so much for having us. Honored to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love you. I love you
so
all.
much.
Yes, thank you. I love you all so much. And until next time, stay ridiculous, stay passionate, and have a laugh. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Yes.